Hey folks, it's Brian from Super Easy Toots, and in this tutorial I'm going to discuss looping. Basically there's three types of loops. There's a for loop, a while loop, and a do while loop. In this tutorial I'm going to cover the for loop. In the next tutorial I'll cover the while loop. And I'm not going to go over the do while loop. Just really don't use it as much in our programs and whatnot throughout C++. However, the for and the while loop are extremely important, so really need to learn this because you're going to be using a lot of looping throughout your programs. So basically, to write a for loop, we start off by declaring a variable, and I just declared an integer variable and named it I. I didn't assign it a value here. I assigned it no value because that's going to be done inside the for loop. Now, there's basically three parts to a for loop. There's an initialization, which is occurring here. There's a condition, and then there's an incrementation. There can also be a decrementation as well if you wanted to decrease it. So basically we start off by assigning I, our variable, a value of 0. And then if I is less than or equals 7, we will execute the code that follows, which is this right here, the cout. And then we're going to increment I by 1. Now we do need the semicolons in here. There's two semicolons. There's one right after this 0 here, and then there's one right after this 7 here. That is necessary as part of the for loop. There is no semicolon at the end of the for loop. It's very similar to the if statement. It's an exception. We do have the semicolon at the end of our code right here that we need to have in there, and we do need the braces. You don't need the braces if you have one line, but again, it's good practice to put them in there because most of your for loops you're going to have more than one line of code. So I would get used to that. So basically, the process of what's going on with a for loop is I starts off as 0. Then the code executes because it does meet this condition of I being less than or equal to 7. I is incremented by 1, and the loop is, and then the loop is run again. So we have I equals 0, execute code. I equals 1, execute code, and so on until this condition is not true, until I is equal to 8. So what we're going to see print out on the screen is going to be 0 through 7. And it's going to print out in this direction because I have the end-L statement in here. If I didn't have this end-L, then this code would all print out in this direction. So if we go over to Quincy now, and I have that same code that I just showed you in the notes, and I run this, we're going to see that we have our 0 through 7. So now what I've also done here to show you that you don't need to just use I, you can use your own variables. I've created a variable named J. Russell. It's an integer variable after my favorite quarterback of all time, Jamarcus Russell, who accomplished a lot in the NFL. He got really, really rich and really, really fat, and I got no problem with that. I hate the Raiders, so that made me laugh. He killed me in fantasy league. But anyways, so what we have here is I've, in the for loop, set J. Russell equal to 0. That's the initialization. And our condition is J. Russell is less than equals 40. The code will execute, and 40 represents 40 million that Al Davis poured into Jamarcus's pockets. And then we have J. Russell being incremented by 10. Basically, we've got the plus equals. If you recall, this will increment the variable by whatever number follows. So it's going to go from 0 to 10 to 20. And the code that's executing is this simple cout statement of Jamarcus Russell has. We're going to count his millions, and then the variable name Jamarcus, J. Russell, and then the word millions. So we're going to count his millions because, again, up to that 40 million that he took from the Raiders. So if we execute this, if we run this, there we have it. Jamarcus has 0 million because he started off really poor, and then he had 10 million, and then he built his wealth to 20, and then 30, and then boom, 40. And then he's, who knows where he's at now. So that's basically it for a for loop. Pretty simple and easy to understand. Definitely work on this because, again, as I said earlier in the tutorial, this is an important concept that you're going to really use throughout C++ programming.